The announcement came quietly, as most irreversible things do. One morning, people simply didn't feel tired, not rested, unburdened. The dull gravity behind the eyes was gone. Coffee tasted unnecessary. Yawns stopped halfway through. Doctors waited for panic, for collapse, for some delayed neurological cost. It never arrived. Human beings no longer needed sleep. At first, the world celebrated. Cities gained 8 extra hours without asking for them. Offices never closed. Neon lights burned through nights that lost their meaning. Parents finished work and still had time to talk. Students learned twice as fast. The economy surged, productivity climbed, and the phrase, "I'm exhausted," became a metaphor instead of a condition. And yet, at exactly the same hour every night, something strange began to happen. People started dreaming, not drifting off, not losing consciousness, just dreaming fully awake. It began as a shimmer at the edge of vision, a soft intrusion, like a memory trying to form. Then images arrived whole. A man walking through his kitchen suddenly saw snow falling indoors, silent and heavy. A woman driving home felt her hands turn into feathers while the road stretched endlessly forward. The dreams lasted minutes at first, then longer. Scientists were baffled. Sleep was gone, but the brain still demanded its other function. Dreams were no longer tied to rest. They arrived like weather, on schedule and indifferent to plans. Society fractured around the dream hour. Some people learned to pause. They sat still, letting the images wash through them. Others fought it, continuing conversations while half the world melted into symbols around them. Accidents spiked briefly, drivers dreaming of oceans while steering through traffic, surgeons pausing mid-incision as impossible colors filled their minds. Regulations followed. Dream zones were established. The world adapted, as it always did, but the dreams themselves began to change. They were sharper now, more coherent, less personal. People stopped dreaming about stress or desire. They dreamed about places they had never been, events they had not lived. A woman in Cairo dreamed of a child being born in Oslo. A teenager in Mexico saw an old man die in a room he had never entered. These were not metaphors. Details matched reality with frightening precision. It took time to accept what was happening. Dreams were no longer private hallucinations. They were shared. Every night, billions of awake minds slipped into overlapping narratives. The dreams stitched together, passing information the waking world could not access. Languages blended, timelines overlapped. People woke, if the word still applied, knowing things they had never learned. Governments tried to intervene. They failed. You cannot censor something that arrives inside the skull. You cannot imprison a population that never needs rest. Control systems built around fatigue collapsed. Borders softened. Information moved without networks. And then came the quiet revolution. People began listening to dreams. They recorded them, mapped them, compared notes. Patterns emerged. The dreams were not random. They were warnings, rehearsals, echoes of futures brushing against the present. Disasters were seen before they happened, not clearly enough to stop all of them, but enough to soften the blow. Humanity became slightly better at catching itself before falling, but there was a cost. Without sleep, there was no true escape, no unconscious void. Life became continuous, unbroken by darkness. Some people missed the mercy of oblivion. Therapists reported a new illness, temporal fatigue, not tiredness of the body, but of existence itself. The dreams grew heavier. They began to linger beyond their hour. People carried fragments with them through the day, symbols stuck in their thoughts, emotions without origin. The boundary between waking and dreaming thinned until it felt arbitrary. Children adapted best. They treated dreams like another language. They drew what they saw. They asked questions adults couldn't answer. They understood instinctively that the mind had always needed stories to survive reality, and now it simply told them louder. Years passed. Humanity did not collapse. It changed shape. Night was no longer for rest but for reflection. Cities dimmed their lights during the dream hour, not out of necessity, but respect. People stood still together, eyes open, minds elsewhere, sharing a silence filled with impossible images. And in that shared dreaming, humanity discovered something unsettling and profound. Sleep had never been about rest. It had been about distance, from ourselves, from each other, from the future pressing too close. When that distance vanished, dreams remained as the last place the mind could stretch beyond the present moment. So people no longer slept, but every night the world still closed its eyes.